It's Tuesday and it's my birthday. I'm 60 years old. And the more observant amongst you may notice that I'm wearing my pyjamas. And there's a reason for this. You may remember the last edition of Mark Talks Mags. I had a centre page spread of Mark Bolan wearing a leopard skin top. And Gemma said, that's a bit like your pyjamas. And of course these pyjamas weren't bought as pyjamas. I thought it was a shirt, and I still think it's quite a snazzy shirt. There's a 70s word for you. But there's another reason too. Because that centre page spread of Mark Bolan from early 1978, and I actually said then, so it's a little bit of recompense here. I actually said at the time, he's looking very fit and healthy there, because a few months ago he was looking rather chubby and bloated and what have you, and he looks very well now. Well, it only occurred to me afterwards that he actually died 5 months earlier, so it's no wonder he's looking a little slimmer, isn't it? That's a bit bad taste, but there we go. So I'm very sorry to the great Mark, but this is in honour of him. I'm wearing my pyjamas. So on to today's Mark Talks Mags, and we have, it's another 1978 one actually, purely coincidentally. It's April the 15th, 1978. And on the cover, we have a huge picture of Phil Collins from Genesis, who, have a look at this. He's clearly just stood on a nail on stage, hasn't he? But I don't know what it's all about. I'm not even going to read all that. The most important thing on the front here is Clash Fight Nazis. And it says, the Clash, one of the most overtly political of Britain's new wave bands, are to play the Anti-Nazi League Carnival in London on April the 30th. They join the Tom Robinson Band, X-Ray Specs and Steel Pulse, whose support for the League was announced in the Melody Maker last week. Well, this, of course, although they're saying here the Anti-Nazi League Carnival, it was the Rock Against Racism gig, which is a very, very famous gig, which people travelled from far and wide all over the country to go to that one. A good friend of mine and his pals travelled down from Wolverhampton as I think they were 14-year-olds. There were 4 or 5 of them travelled all the way down to London on their own. And he constantly tells me they followed Mistian routes and the ruts on carnival lorries until they got there. What a wonderful day it must have been. I never went. I don't know why, but there we are. Yeah, so the Clash's Mick Jones commented, "We are doing it because it is a free concert." But manager Bernard Rhodes was more specific. Swastikas are not in this year. Hallelujah. Things don't change. Let's turn the page. And here we've got, what have we got on here? Strangling the Tubes. This is the American rock band The Tubes, who were very theatrical, got piled in with all the punk stuff, but they were no more punk than anyone else. It just happens that they parodied punk amongst many other things in their stage act. But they were very good live. I went along to see them because I was told they were punk, but there we go. But Fee Waybill, the singer, it's quite good actually, because this was the same for touring acts 50 years ago, and it will be the same in 50 years' time. He said, "Shit," he grizzled. "I don't know where the hell we are. We just drove in from somewhere, and tonight we'll be driving back out. And I'll arrive somewhere tomorrow, and I still won't know where we are or where we've been." Touring ain't so glamorous, is it? As Gemma will tell you.
No, I can relate to that.
It's one city to the next city, and that's it. Opposite here we got Damned If We'll Slag 'Em. This is the Damned. "We were contemplating a poem to mark the final demise of the Damned, whose farewell bash was held on Saturday at London's Rainbow. The idea was ditched when all we could find to rhyme with damned was slammed. Let them expire in peace rather than pieces, we generously thought." This was the first split of the Damned, which I remember very well, and it's quite interesting because it goes on to say what the various members are doing. It says Dave Vanian is, from all accounts, relishing the opportunity of flexing his shades and Brill-creamed quiff with the Doctors of Madness. And both Brian, James and Lou are preparing new bands to inflict upon the nation. We spoke to James last week. He was discreet but told us that his new combo would feature a synthesizer player. A young guy apparently, though he assured us he was really hot. The rhythm section he will employ features two musicians familiar to us all. He wouldn't unfortunately identify them. This of course is the Lords of the New Church. Great band. And of course the Damned got back together again and again and again. What have we got here? The Raver. Let's have a little look. The Boomtown Rats. Now it can be revealed the inside story of the Boomtown Rats single, She's So Modern. Modest, in inverted commas, Bob Geldof tells us that it's dedicated to a couple of London's beautiful people who were brought along to see the Rats when they first came to London to give a reaction. You haven't a chance, they told Bob. Two of the girls, named in the song, are Magenta of Tony Brainsby Publicity and Susie McEwen of Step Forward. Well, Magenta is Magenta Divine, who started her career with the Tony Brainsby Publicity company. And that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because she ended up being a very good friend of Paula Yates. So, she told Bob, you haven't a chance. Good. Let's turn the page. We should have the news page next, so this could be interesting. Let's have a little look. Elvis bassist Thomas and Glenn Matlock hurt. So Elvis Costello's bass player Bruce Thomas hurt himself. And Glenn Matlock, what did Glenn Matlock do? The Rich Kid's Glenn Matlock was also put out of action last week after smashing his hand through a glass window following a water pistol fight with a journalist. Sounds a bloody violent water pistol fight, doesn't it? There we are. Althea and Donna have been signed by Virgin Records, and the Jamaican duo's first album, Uptown Top Ranking, will be released on April the 28th on Virgin's new Frontline label. This, of course, was Virgin's reggae label. The album includes a remix version of the Uptown Top Ranking single, and musicians include Sly Dunbar, Robbie Shakespeare, etc. Other Frontline acts recently signed up by Virgin are due in Britain for a series of concerts over the next few months. And it mentions the Gladiators and Iroy and Culture. Great stuff. What else have we got here? Let's have a look. The Pirates. The Pirates kick off a British tour later this month to time the release of their new album. The Pirates were basically old men. Mick Green, who Wilco Johnson idolised and still idolises. I don't know how old he was then, but I'm guessing he was probably somewhere around about 35. And the punks took the Pirates to their heart. They were one of the most incendiary live bands I ever saw. Just unbelievable live band, and as punky as any young punks in 1977-78. One of the great live bands, no doubt about that. Pere Ubu, the band from Cleveland, Ohio, whose reputation has followed in the wake of Devo, make their British debut later this month with a short series of dates that includes 2 nights at London's Roundhouse supporting Graham Parker and the Rumour. Well, I hate to think what Graham Parker and the Rumour's demograph thought of Pere Ubu, but that's an interesting tie-in, isn't it? What else have we got? Let's have a look.
Is it Perubu or Perubu?
Say what you like. I assumed it was pear, as in pear French for father. I don't know. I'm probably completely wrong.
I've always said Perubu.
Could be. You could be right. But that's a little bit like the Bowie and Barry thing. There's
Bath and Bath.
Yeah. But the Bowie and Barry thing, pisses me off no end. I mean, it's Bowie, for God's sake. Anybody that calls him David Bowie, just... Sorry.
Pear or pear?
It upsets me.
Bowie,
Yep.
potato.
Yep, it does upset me, I have to say. Very, very much. Right, anyway, moving on. Let's have a little look. The Soft Boys. The Soft Boys, as in Robin Hitchcock, have signed to Radar Records under the pseudonym Leppo and the Juves. The band has been in the studio with producer Andy Arthurs, and a single, provisionally titled Give Me a Spanner, Ralph, is set for release in May. Now, I love the Soft Boys, and none of this makes sense because, as far as I know, and I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, they only released one thing on Radar, and that was I Want to Be an Angle Poised Lamp. But Give Me a Spanner, Ralph was a Soft Boys song, but it didn't come along until much later. And Leppo and the Juves was a track on their first album. So none of that makes sense to me at all, but maybe they're playing games with Radar Records. Who knows? Okay, let's turn the page and see what we got next. US news. CBGB's Second Avenue Theatre reopened this week with an auspicious weekend bill that bodes well for New Wave in New York. Tough Darts and The Jam were the reopening acts. Now, I would imagine, I've not got anything against Tough Darts. They like a lot of New York New Wave bands. They were a good band. But I would imagine it's highly likely The Jam blew them off stage. We won't know, will we? Lou Reed played a sellout 4-night engagement at the Roxy Theatre, turning in his best LA performances in years. 4-page ad for Sad Cafe. Well. America blows hot and cold for Genesis. This is, of course, Phil Collins led Genesis, not Peter Gabriel led Genesis. I've just picked out a paragraph here. This is Phil Collins saying, there was a guy from the record company who came out to see us wearing his Regulation Genesis t-shirt, except it was an old one with Peter Gabriel on the front. A bit tactless, don't you think, said Phil. Not at all, Phil, because Peter Gabriel Genesis were a fantastic band, particularly The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. So, tactless, not at all. Intercity. That's Melody Maker, correspondence report from Britain's provincial music centres. And we've got Liverpool, Belfast, Birmingham and Bristol. This could be interesting. Just have a quick sip of my very nice Oakham Citra. That's not product placement, by the way, it just is very nice. So, Bristol. Let's have a look. Well, there's a picture there of the media who were, in my eyes, as a Bristol boy, in 1978, the media were probably the most underrated of all Bristol bands at the time. We'd had the Cortinas, we already had the pop group, and they moved on to greener pastures, if you like. The media had been about through all that, through the Cortinas and the pop group, etc. They're a great band. Very little recorded material available, but there is one song called New Blood, which is worth, I'm sure it's probably on YouTube, the media, New Blood, look it up. It's a great punk period song, one to check out for you. So they mention the media. They say with the departure of the pop group to more prosperous diversions, it seems odds on that the intense and highly original Gardes Darks will pick up the mantle of Bristol's premier new band. They were good, but they weren't great. They were much, much better live than they were on record, and I've got to say that's probably the same for a lot of bands. their recorded stuff is a bit weak, but live they were really, really good. Yeah, Gardes Dark, great band. Let's see what they say about Liverpool, because of course in April of '78 Liverpool was becoming hugely important, and I'm sure Eric's will get mentioned. Yeah, here we go. It's a recording studio called Amazon, and it says there's a lot of liaison between Amazon and Eric's club, and the men in charge, Jeremy Lewis and Roger Eagle, are experts on local music. Most bands Jeremy produces, Roger has booked, and the two had local success, selling 5,000 copies of the Eric's single featuring punk band Big in Japan. Yeah, that's an interesting little article. It says just north of Liverpool is Kirby, that ill-famed town known for its housing estates, demolition gangs and vandals. Yeah, I know Kirby well. I was born just south of Liverpool, in the posh part on the Wirral, in Bebbington. So yeah, that's all quite close to home for me. Frankie Miller has made the big breakthrough. Frankie Miller was a hard-drinking Scotsman, and it was probably fucking terrifying. I've heard stories about him going out drinking with various other fellow Scotsmen and wreaking havoc. Berserkly Popsters, the Rubinoos, yes, everything was power pop come '78, wasn't it? Mailbag. To pogo or not to pogo? Last Saturday night, and this is from GP Holden of Maidenhead. Last Saturday night I went to see Elvis Costello at Bracknell. He and the attractions were tremendous, if far too loud for comfort and clarity. However, we all knew he would be great, and this does not warrant the effort of me sitting down and scrawling on paper. However, the audience does. I am a boring old fart at 24, having been to many concerts over the last 8 years, and have never come across a crowd like it. Normally at concerts, when people are standing and dancing, it tends to be hot, crowded and vaguely uncomfortable. Furthermore, the attitude as a rule is one of be nice to people and they'll be nice to you, etc, etc, etc. Not this time. As soon as the band filed off, this is a sport band, Mickey Jutt, all the Elvis Costello fans started to push forwards and in at the side, so we had barely room to breathe and were gradually forced backwards by weight of numbers of totally selfish and inconsiderate school kid punks. Jesus, he's 24, he sounds about 64. Then the pogoing commenced, and I noticed several interesting things about it. Firstly, it seems to have nothing at all to do with dancing. It is more an expression of hipness, to use an old expression. Well, less said the better. We could carry on. He goes on for about another 5 paragraphs about that. But then he does end by saying it was a bargain at £1.80. Well, I should hope he does. Donna Summer. Fabulous. The last doll comes in from the cold. This is David Johansen. He disappeared from the scene and now he's back with a new band and album. It wasn't great, I'm sorry to say. Wilco Johnson UK tour. Of course, he'd left Dr. Phil Gabonai, and he played at Tiffany's in Bristol on the 20th of April. Tiffany's was every city had one, every town had one. It was the archetypal plastic palm trees club. It was great. We loved Tiffany's. Caught in the Act, Chilling the Lane. This I'm guessing will be Tom. To go. Oh, what a night that would have been. Television headlining, the only one supporting. Amazing. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, I mean that's probably quite interesting, but just leave it at that. Television are the only ones together. A match made in heaven. Sensational Alex Harvey Band, The Last Bit. This is Rock Drill, which sadly it was their last album, and sadly it was shite. Not good at all. Albums. Elkie Sings the Hits. Elkie Brooks. Bootsy's Rubber Band. Bootsy of the Year, Funkadelic, Hardcore Jollies, and Sweet, Level Headed. There's 3 good albums.
20 minutes.
Yeah. Peter Skellen, Amanda Lear, Steve Gibbons band. Steve Gibbons desperately trying to jump on the punk bandwagon with his new wave look. There we go. He'd cut his hair, put on some sunglasses, and his trousers were getting slimmer. They were all doing it then. You can't blame them. Albums, Beastly Tull, Heavy Horses. Now this was where my guilty pleasure, Jethro Tull, in my mind, went rather downhill. The previous album, Songs from the Wood, was great. Heavy Horses, on the other hand, was not great, and it went downhill from there. Steve Hillage, a review on one page, a 4-page ad on the other. More albums. British Lions, which was members of Mott the Hoople and Medicine Head. Greg Kinn Band on Berserkly, another sort of power pop thing. The DPs have got a 4-page ad. The Depressions. The long-awaited album, Guaranteed to Change Your Mind. This was the last vestiges of record companies trying to get on the punk bandwagon. The Depressions are actually a really good band, but they a 4-page ad for the Depressions doesn't make any sense. They certainly never sold many records. Singles. Okay, television, Foxhole. Utterly, utterly wonderful. Those people who dismiss them as some sort of cerebral coldfish band are lunkheads, false messengers. They're a superbly original outfit who not only created a new sound, but also have been able to experiment within it. I couldn't agree more. Utterly, utterly wonderful it was and is. It's no Marquee Moon, but it's still wonderful. Second one, The Only Ones, Another Girl, Another Planet. Utterly, utterly wonderful. Reprise. It's been a mighty long time since the excellent lovers of today, but as they say, it's been well worth the hanging around. Like television, they've carved out their very own sound, and absolutely true. The Only Ones are probably my favourite band of the period. Well, 2 bands probably, The Only Ones and perhaps John Fox period Ultravox. But The Only Ones were they should have been massive. They should have been absolutely huge. And unfortunately today people just know Another Girl, Another Planet, and the reviewer here does say it's been a long time since The Excellent Lovers of Today, which was their first single, which I actually prefer. If you only know Another Girl, Another Planet, just dig deeper. They were fabulous. Third single on the list, Ian Dury and the Blockheads, What a Waste. It's a good week, isn't it? Subway Sect, Nobody's Scared. The Skids, Charles. Amazing. The Police, Roxanne. And I know it's The Police, but it's a great single. Magazine, Touch and Go, Satan's Rats, You Make Me Sick. So what I was saying in the last edition of Mark Talks Mags about punk having died away in early 78 is absolutely a lot of bollocks, isn't it? Because here we are a couple of months later and it's everywhere. And I guess it depends what reviewers reviewing, what etc. etc. So there's a lot of good stuff here. 999, Me and My Desire. Yeah, really, really good. Great stuff here. And down at the bottom here we've got this is good. Danger House. They're obviously thrown a little bit in, just the Danger House label, which is an American punk label. None of these records sold at the time, but we've got The Avengers, We Are the One, Black Randy and the Metro Squad, Trouble at the Cup, and the Dills, Class B CD. This is just brilliant. All are on Danger House and are imports from Virgin. Absolutely brilliant. Ah, just fabulous stuff. Marketing ploy. The single from the album. No mention of the band, no mention of the record. The single out now, new single out soon, and then in tiny letters at the bottom, I don't mind, stroke autonomy, the Buzzcocks. Marketing ploy. Yeah, you've got to read down to the bottom. Incidentally, Autonomy is one of my favourite Buzzcocks songs. Jazz albums, no, forget that. Look here, this is the touring page. Who's touring? Television, Elvis Costello, Slade. There's, we got the charts. What's number 1? Night Fever. No, that's US, we don't want that. Number 1 in the UK charts, I Wonder Why by Shawaddy Waddy. Number 2 is Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty. And number 3 is Denis by Blondie. If You Can't Give Me Love by Susie Quattro is number 4. Up from number 10 at number 5 is Follow You, Follow Me by Genesis. Down 2 at number 6 is Matt Stork Men and Matt Stork Cats and Dogs. Jesus Christ. Down 5 at number 7 is Wuthering Heights. Up 14 at number 8, With a Little Luck by Wings. Up 7 at number 9 is Never Let Us Slip Away by Andrew Gold. And down 3 at number 10 is I Can't Stand the Rain by Eruption. Looking further down the charts, we've got new entries from Elton John, Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll, Night Fever by the Bee Gees, Singing in the Rain, Sheila B. Devotion. Over there we got an interview with Tom Verlaine, the genius that is. And it's a 3-page interview, 4-page interview, yeah, interesting stuff. Top 30 albums, The Kick Inside, Kate Bush. The album, ABBA, 20 Golden Grapes, Buddy Holly and the Ticket. Ticket? Buddy Holly and the... Jesus, this Citra is getting to my head tonight. Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Number 4, City to City, Jerry Rafferty. And in at number 5, and then there were 3 by Genesis. What's new? Singles from Brian Ferry, Earth, Wind and Fire, T-Rex, Buzzcocks, Magazine, U-Roy, Chubby Checker, Police, Eddie Kendricks, etc. Live review of Squeeze. And then we get into the boring muso bit in Melody Maker, unfortunately. Oh, here's a nice one. Full-page ad for Japan, adolescent sex. This was when Japan were rather in awe of the New York Dolls, so they were one of the first sort of glamorous hair bands, if you like. I'm not going to call them hair metal, they certainly weren't that, but they were very New York Dolls in look. And that first album, Adolescent Sex, is a rocky album. It's a guitar-based album. Of course, a little bit further on, they all cut their hair and they were an electro band, and that's what they wanted to do. They were on Areola, and I guess it was Areola that said, look, you're pretty boys, grow your hair and play guitars and you'll make it. Well, they never did, but they did later on. Jazz news, crossword. Oh, I'd completed it, apart from 6 down. What's on 6 down? What Roy Wood said at the nursery dance. 3, 2, 4 and 4. 3, 2, I have no idea. Oh, and 2 down. Sold by Genesis by the pound. Well, that's England, isn't it? Why didn't I get that? Jazz scene. Toasting with Tapper. That's Tappazuki, obviously. Folk news. Club calendar. Well, all the usual suspects there. Caught in the act, suicide in New York. A little bit more of the Tom Verlaine interview, that's a very long one. And then we go on to the last page, and it's a Chris Rea full-page advert. So that was neat. That was a good edition. I'm very pleased for my birthday edition of Mark's Talks Mags. That was really good. And Gemma didn't really have much to say tonight, did she? But there we go. So, we'll see you next time.